Macaroni biscuits from World War II. So during the turn of the 40s, there was this strange trend of people putting disturbing ingredients into dinner biscuits. Whether it was the product of wartime rations, personal taste, or consanguineous marriage remains a mystery. First step is to cook a half cup of macaroni. Fire! Meanwhile, our dry ingredients are 2 cups of flour, 1/4 cup of sugar, teaspoon of salt, plus 5 teaspoons of baking powder. God damn. This is a Josh Groban treatment. You can fire these from a mortar. Y'all got me making ballistic biscuits. Drain! Wet ingredients are 3 tablespoons of melted shortening, a cup of moo juice, 1 egg, and the macaroni. Combine the two, mix. Boop. We got the muffin biscuits. Half hour at 400. Oh boy! Woo. What? Oh, there's something wrong here. There seems to be macaroni in my biscuit. Precisely what you think it would be. Feels like brains. Cornstarch cookies from 1919. These go by many names, like starchies, meltaways, and in Brazil where they originate, sequilhos. But they're one of the OG gluten-free 3-ingredient cookies. We start with a half cup of sweetened condensed milk, followed by a half cup of soft butter. Beat vigorously. Then using the handle of a spoon, we slowly stir in 2 cups of cornstarch. What precisely does this accomplish? Trust the process. This is a strange trifecta of ingredients. I'm intrigued. Now we bake in a slow oven for 15 to 20 minutes. We'll do 325 Fahrenheit. Perfect. These are so cute. Well, you know, in a world of similar cookies, these are something quite special. They're like a cloud of joy. Incredibly unique. Peanut butter soup from 1941. So this cookbook was put out by the Metropolitan Life Insurance Company to make sure people were getting adequate nutrition during the war. And this soup here is apparently the perfect meal when it comes to ideal macronutrient intake. We've come a long way in 80 years. Into a saucepan, we start by melting 5 tablespoons of lard. You know, in the story of my life, lard is the closest thing I've ever had to an nemesis. Fire! Once the lard is melted, we make a roux by whisking in 5 tablespoons of flour. Now that we've got some color, we mix in a 12-ounce can of evaporated milk, diluting it with the same amount of water. Finally, we have a pinch of salt and just a half cup of peanut butter. Get in! Oh, this is thick. Today we're serving up hot beige. Come get your bowl of brown. I don't understand. This dish has no idea what it's trying to be. It is confused. It isn't terrible. It's just an unfortunate way to consume peanut butter. Magic beer bread from 84. Now most breads are risen by yeast, those lovely little things that make your bread all fluffy and puffy like a cat in heat. But this recipe is a quick bread, something which doesn't have any yeast but promises to taste like it does. We begin with a 12-ounce can or bottle of your choice of brew. Oh, this is my type of baking. Just make sure it's not cold. Then we just add 3 cups of flour. Oh, it's foamy. 3 tablespoons of sugar, 3 teaspoons of baking powder, and finally a good pinch of salt. Now we just go to town with our hands. Rings are coming off. That's how you knew you were in trouble. Oh, hello. Get off! And into a greased loaf pan. Flatten it out. Then in this goes to a cold, unpreheated oven. Sacrilegious! Set the temperature to 350 and bake for about an hour. Is this the magic part? Do a trick! Woo! Not exactly a pretty loaf of bread. Whoa. But it don't need to be pretty, because that's pretty darn good. The beer offers all that lovely sour taste that you'd expect from yeast. Wow. For a dead simple, easy, cheap bread, that is a winner. A Coca-Cola salad from the 70s. So this recipe has been floating around the internet for quite some time now, and people seem to think it's from the 50s, but it's not. It's more so typical of the 70s or the 80s or a psychopath. We start with 1 package of cream cheese, into which we dust a package of orange Jell-O. Yeah, that really does say that. Oh no. Some high-vis cheese, Department of Transportation certified. Next, we take 10 ounces of Coke and we boil it. Fire! This is a very disturbing way to spend a day. Oh, I'm scared. Just what I was feeling for lunch. Carbonated orange cheese gravy. Look away. Lastly, we have a half cup of nuts. At least the recipe is self-aware. So we leave this at room temperature for a bit. Then to the fridge. Good morning. That's a lie. So first and foremost, it is disturbing, quite, but the potential is there. Because it has this cheesecake vibe, and the flavors are okay. It's just been corrupted. Deep fried Oreos from 2001. Now, is this an old recipe? Well, it depends on who you ask. But it is absurd, vulgar, and without regard for culinary decorum. It's American. Our batter begins with 1 cup of pancake mix. Get out of the cup. Come on. Stop being difficult. Half a cup of milk. Moo juice. Tablespoon of vegetable oil. And 1 egg. Whisk vigorously. Is my clock dead? It is now. Next up, we fill a pot about 4 inches deep with oil. Fire! Now our oil is hot, so we just dip in our Oreos. Woo! And in they go. About 3 minutes on each side. This is so ridiculous. Woo! Oh, man. Oh. These are incredible. I mean, look at that. You're insane, but I love you. I'm a changed man. Absolutely wild. Ice cream cone cupcakes from 79. Now you'd think that ice cream cones are for ice cream, but no, this is the 70s. We do what we want. We start with a half cup of vegetable oil, a cup of sugar, teaspoon of vanilla, and 1 egg. Then you whisk vigorously. For the dry ingredients, we have a cup and a half of flour, half cup of cocoa, and a teaspoon of floof soda, baking soda. Then we alternate adding our dry ingredients with a half cup of buttermilk. If you don't have buttermilk, you could always buy it. Mix. And finally, a half cup of hot water. Oh boy. We fill these up about 2/3 of the way, and they need to have a flat bottom, like me. Get in! Whoa! 350 for about 30 minutes. Hello! For the buttercream, we just beat a half cup of soft butter, slowly adding a cup of powdered sugar, and some vanilla. Yes, you can make buttercream by hand. I do everything by hand. I'm very lonely. Look at that. It's just a really tasty, fun idea. I love it. Ice cream coleslaw from 1973. Now, I don't precisely know the nature of the dystopian demons that must have been inhabiting the minds of the people of the 1970s, but they must have been severe enough as to cause this abomination. We begin with 3 cups of shredded cabbage. You know, cabbage is one of those things. I have nothing else to add. Next is 8 ounces of whipped topping. That's one way to spice things up. We don't shame anybody here. Now 20 ounces of crushed pineapple. Did I mention this was in the kids' recipe section? Yeah. This is why we hate cabbage. Very bad. Finally, we have a pinch of salt and 2 tablespoons of white vinegar. You, ma'am, are motivated by anger and anger alone. Now we let this chill for about 2 hours or enough time to sell your possessions and flee the state. I feel like I'm waiting to be hanged. All right. It tastes like how a dentist office smells. Broken dreams and scattered screams. That's the product of an ill mind. Tang cookies from 1969. Hey! Now this recipe is from Nebraska. Nebraska, are you okay? We begin with 3/4 of a cup of Tang. Might I remind you that this is a cookie with drink mix. Followed by a half cup of sugar. Any dentists out there? 2 egg geese. And 2/3 of a cup of vegetable oil. That's a choice. Whisk. Gee, this sure is vibrant. Nebraska! Now the dry ingredients are dry. 2 cups of flour. 2 teaspoons of floof powder. And a half teaspoon of salt. I expected Nebraskans to be saltier since they live in Nebraska. Combine. Mix. 350 for about 12 to 15 minutes. I know. Oh, I know. Nebraska. They are quirky, but not bad. It's tangy. I would bake them a little less though, like 10 to 12 minutes. But thank you, Nebraska. Chow mein cookies from 1968. Now, I'm down for chow mein noodles and I'm down for cookies, but I mean, common sense says that they shouldn't necessarily go together. Or do they? We start with 6 ounces of chalky chips, which is a little more than a cup. Plus 6 ounces of butterscotch chips. We're off to a good start. Now we simply melt this over a double boiler. Fire! Then we remove from heat and add in 5 ounces of chow mein noodles. You see, this is where you lose me, because I think this is troubling, like clinically. Or you were subject to a fall from a great height. Trying to say you're a little messed up, Teresa from Memphis, Tennessee. And a half cup of salted peanuts. Some crunch for your trauma. Mix until you cry, then you just dollop onto some wax paper to cool while you think about your life choices. Here we have some choice piles of excrement. Yeah, this is just a good idea. The smooth chocolate and the butterscotch with the salty crunch of the noodles and the peanuts, yes.